Should the Chicago Bears go out and get what many people would call a problem child, but I call it assets for the future? We're going to talk about that and more on today's episode. Let's go. Now, if you are new to the channel or you've been here for a while and maybe just forget to do it, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave the 5-star review. If you're listening on the podcast side, y'all know what to do. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love as you always do. Now, if you have been hiding under a rock and maybe you don't know what's going on around sports today, Brendan Sorsby has been a name that has been talked about as a possibility to try and enter the draft. Now, the reason that this is a possibility for a supplemental draft, this is not the actual draft for next year. He is trying to get back into playing football this year, is because this young man has a problem. He has a gambling problem. He placed 9,000 bets in his time in college. 30 plus of those bets, I believe, were on NCAA football games. And in that situation, also some of those were for his team. And now there's this big uproar because he is trying to get himself into a supplemental draft. And it seems that there's going to be a pro day for Brendan Sorsby, as reported by Ian Rappaport, on July 10th here. So coming up pretty soon. And this would, call to affect possibly a supplemental draft if Roger Goodell was willing to do so for this young man. Now, how a supplemental draft will work is the Chicago Bears essentially would bid for Brendan Sorsby if they were interested in going out and getting this player. You put a pick up that you feel is worth it to go after a young man like this. You got to ask yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze in that entire situation? But if you end up winning the bid, essentially, you get Brendan Sorsby on your team. And I know some of you are looking at me saying, well, Pat, why the heck would we want a guy that's already convicted of gambling? I guess convicted's not the right word, who already has shown that he has a gambling problem. Why should he get another chance in this NFL? That's a problem child type of player. And here's why I think the Chicago Bears should take a chance. By the way, let me know, do you think the Chicago Bears should take a chance and draft Brendan Sorsby in this supplemental draft? Let me know down in the comments below. I'm having a conversation not on talented player. The Chicago Bears have a quarterback. I don't need a quarterback. I'm not a quarterback needy team. Take that in, Bears fans. Take that conversation in. I am not a quarterback needy team. Sweet baby Jesus, that feels good to say. But I am a team that's always looking for assets. And unfortunately, that is something that through some of the back channels that the NFL has done, we haven't had the extra of. And you're always looking for extra assets. Not to say the Bears don't have their own draft capital here, and they'd be putting some supplemental draft capital up possibly to go get Brendan Sorsby. But I'm in a conversation right now that putting players with Ben Johnson turns them into players that teams around the NFL wants to have. Pairing quarterbacks with Ben Johnson has proven that you not only have one quarterback, but two quarterbacks on your roster that look pretty darn good already. And realistically speaking, you're paying a backup quarterback a lot of money in Tyson Bagent, who at some point during the season, many teams may be calling on if there's still a quarterback needy team, because you are not a quarterback needy team. And so in that entire conversation, I want the Chicago Bears to become what the Green Bay Packers were for years. And what I mean by that is, you look at Green Bay Packer history. Let's go through. There's only 4 names on this list. It's not a massive history, but it's something that you continue to see throughout their history, where they had their 2 starting quarterbacks for the last, 1994. Is that 28 years, almost 30 years? They've had their starting quarterback no matter the situation. And so they were able to develop these backup quarterbacks who got in a couple of games, got in certain situations, and piqued the interest of other teams that were quarterback needy teams. I'll give you a Mark Brunell in 1995, traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who had a decent career in this NFL, traded for a 3rd round pick in 1995, plus a 5th round pick in 1995. You also look at Aaron Brooks in 2000. The Packers traded him to the New Orleans Saints for a 3rd round pick plus linebacker KD Williams. The Packers also sent tight end Lamont Hill with Brooks down to Green Bay in 2001. They did the same thing for Matt Hasselbeck, a name that many people know because of his broadcasting today, but also was a heck of a quarterback in his time in the NFL. Was the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks, sent them to the playoffs, and had, of course, the moment that we know we want the ball and we're going to score, and then there goes There goes the Packers the other way. Either way, but the Packers end up trading Matt Hasselbeck, moving up from that number 17th overall pick to the number 10 pick in the first round, and they also sent a third rounder back, but you had a asset that you could send in that conversation, and the latest time they did it was 2018 with Brett Hundley sent to the Seattle Seahawks for a 6th round pick. I'm not talking player, I'm talking assets. And when I look at Brendan Sorsby, I see a player that I think for the first part of this, right? Because realistically speaking, most teams that are going to be calling for this, or most teams that are going to be going after a quarterback like this, probably if he's on your roster, are calling you about Tyson Bagent first. So if you move on from a player like Tyson Bagent, do you feel like a young man like Brendan Sorsby is going to be able to step into that role? Well, you look at what he was able to do in his time in college, and you see the 2024 season, he has 2,800 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 64% completion percentage, also had 9 rushing touchdowns. So this is not a young man who has to stand behind the line of scrimmage and has no ability to move in his time in college. He's shown that, right? And I think he could show that at the NFL level as well. Also in the 2025 season, 2,800 passing yards, 27 passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions, increasing that touchdown to interception ratio, 61% completion percentage, also had 9 rushing touchdowns in that season as well. So someone who was able to get out there and have a really good college career, 60 total passing touchdowns, 18 interceptions, 1,300 rushing yards, and 22 rushing touchdowns. That is an asset that, one, I think could come in here and learn the system. I think could come in here and actually develop under a guy like Ben Johnson. And 2, is a guy that at some point, because Caleb Williams, I believe he's going to be the quarterback of our future. We're going to talk about here a 10 to 15 to 20 year run with Caleb Williams here. And hopefully we get to a point where we're able to get that next guy in and develop him up as we go through this process. But that is not the time now, because we're in the beginning of this. I think that Brendan Sorsby could be somebody that steps in, learns the system, understands what he needs to do, and is able to go out there and become an asset for you that you can move on from for quarterback needy teams in the future, especially if you want to keep Tyson Bagent on this roster. Let me know how you guys feel down in the comments below. I'll be talking with you guys as well. Now, here's the big question, though. Is the juice worth the squeeze? You would be offering up, I would say you're probably, if I'm the Bears, right? I'm not giving up high draft capital in this conversation. He wasn't slated to be a high draft pick anyway. I'm placing a 5th round pick at most. I guess maybe if you feel like you're going to be an elite team this year and you're going to finish around the Super Bowl, I can be talked into a 4th round pick, but man, the season has to play out and you have to feel really, really good about you being one of those final 4 teams. So you're not worried about where the draft capital ends up slotting out. But outside of that, I'm saying, you offer up a 5th round pick and lower and see if that's something that would interest you. I'm not telling you to go out there and give up high draft capital. And I'll be honest with you. If there's a team that's willing to say, hey, we'd go out there and give up a 3rd for him, I'm out. If there's a team for you to say, hey, we'd go out there and we'd offer up a 2nd, I'm out, right? Like, I'll be honest with you, high 4th, I'm out. But if you're telling me that teams are probably going into this cautionary, not wanting to give up a ton of draft capital going into this next draft, because we know that this is supposed to be a much deeper draft. There's supposed to be better quarterbacks coming out in this draft, and this is supposed to be one where you can find a quarterback. If I'm the Bears, I take a chance here, and I understand, right, a 5th round pick is a valuable player if you're able to find that guy. We've seen 5th round picks be talented here. Heck, that's the conversation around Austin Booker and him being a pretty good pass rusher for this team, right? He was a 5th round pick. But to me, if I'm living in this world where teams are probably a little bit concerned about the gambling issue, you want to give up a pick where you're okay saying it didn't work out, get the heck out of our building, right? To me, that's where 5th round starts. That's the conversation that I'm willing to start with, to take a chance on the talent that Sorsby could have. And the hope is that you're able to bring him in, maximize his talent, and flip him to the highest bidder moving forward, because teams eventually are going to look around just like they are right now. I would assume there's some teams going into camp right now going, sweet Jesus, this ain't it. We got to find us a quarterback. And there's going to be some calls placed about Tyson Bagent. If you're living in that world, why wouldn't you want to have another guy that you feel can be comfortable in that role of being the backup, or another guy that can be comfortable in that role that maybe a team comes calling for in the middle of the season? Either way, I'm not talking about this young man ever playing a snap, ever playing a down for the Chicago Bears here. And there's some of those guys on the Packers list that did, right? You look at a Matt Hasselbeck, he got in when guys got banged up and things like that. But I'm talking about you having a player that you can see that people are intrigued by, because we've had a ton of conversation around this young man all day today on just about every radio station. The conversation around him is massive. A player that clearly has the talent that he would have been drafted in this draft. If you can get him on the cheap enough where you feel like it's okay, if he even sniffs placing a bet, if he even sniffs opening a gambling app, that you fire him off into the sun. But on the flip side of that, I think that there could be something gained from it if you're the Chicago Bears. And that's all I care about, is the potential to gain more draft capital moving forward, because like we saw this year, if we got to rely on the NFL to get us all our draft capital, we're probably not going to get all our draft capital in certain situations that may come up that would create extra draft capital. But hey, let me know how you guys feel down in the comments below. Is this something you would be interested in as a Bears fan? Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. And by the way, here's my bottom line stance on this for the people that are like, no, you have to question the integrity of the game, because we know that that's coming. We know that conversation is going to come. Hey, why would you let him play the integrity of the game? Jim Harbaugh cheated. It's pretty clear Jim Harbaugh cheated. There's no conversation that Jim Harbaugh didn't cheat. Jim Harbaugh has coached every game for the last 2 years. Jim Harbaugh, I believe, is banned in college right now. He has coached every game for the last couple of seasons at the NFL. Let's not start the integrity now. If the NFL is going to let this young man play, which I would assume they're going to let him play, why would you want to be somebody that misses out on an opportunity to gain and to build off of that? Like I said, let me know how you guys feel down in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you guys as well. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. It's your boy Pat the Designer, back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear down. One love.